You are 22. Your net worth is a number you have never calculated because calculating it would require subtracting your student loans from your savings account, and the answer would be a negative number with 4 digits, and you are not ready for that. So you don't calculate it. You go to work. You come home. You eat something from a container. You check your balance at 10:47 p.m., not for any useful reason, but because it is one of the few numbers in your life you can directly observe. You are not building anything yet. You are surviving in the specific way that looks like normal life from the outside and feels like arithmetic from the inside. $2,140. This is the beginning. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind with a montage, the kind where you are tired on a Tuesday and the number is just sitting there, and the distance between where you are and where $1 million is feels less like a gap and more like a different planet in a different solar system that other people get to live on. You have no idea what it actually takes to get there. Nobody tells you. That's the thing. They tell you to save. They don't tell you what saving does to time. They tell you to invest. They don't tell you what investing actually feels like when you're watching $6,000 become $5,100 in 6 weeks, and everything in your body is telling you to pull it out. They give you the destination. They skip the weather. The first threshold, $10,000. You are 24. You have $10,200 in savings. You have never had 5 figures before. Not once in your adult life. You check the balance 3 times in the first week, not from anxiety, from disbelief. It just sits there, 5 digits, patient, quietly rearranging something in the way you think about yourself. You feel like you've crossed into a different category of person. You haven't. But the feeling matters because it changes what you do next. Here's what nobody tells you about $10,000. It is not the number that matters. It is what the number does to your behavior. People with $10,000 make different decisions than people with $1,400. Not because they're smarter, because the floor has moved. And a higher floor changes which risks are available to take. You open a brokerage account. You fund it with $6,000. Total market index fund, expense ratio 0.03%. You set a recurring transfer, $300 a month, automated, the day after payday, invisible. The first month you don't check. The second month you check once. By month 6, you've stopped thinking about it. This is not neglect. This is the most sophisticated financial move you have made in your adult life. Compounding requires you to look away. The anxiety of watching is what breaks the chain, the rule. At the beginning, your job is not to grow the money. Your job is to keep the money in the machine long enough for the machine to notice it. The second threshold, $40,000. You are 27. The brokerage says $41,300. 3 years. $300 a month. 1 raise you didn't lifestyle inflate. 1 tax return that went directly in, and a market that went up, dipped hard, and went up again. During the dip, you watched the balance fall to $30,800 in 6 weeks. The pull to sell was physical. You did not sell. That decision to do nothing was worth more than every $300 transfer that preceded it. Your coworker James tells you over lunch that he cashed out his 401k when he changed jobs last year. The penalty was 10%. Federal taxes took another 22%. He walked away with 68 cents on every dollar he'd built. He bought a TV. He covered 2 months of rent. He tells you this the way you'd describe traffic, casually, without weight. You don't say anything. You make a note. At 27, $41,000 does not feel like a lot. It is a lot. Here's what nobody tells you about $40,000. At 7% annual average return, that balance doubles in roughly 10 years without a single additional dollar added. The money you built at 24 is already doing work you never assigned it. The output is invisible at this scale. That doesn't mean it isn't running. The machine is running. You can't hear it yet. The shift. You stop thinking about the balance and start thinking about the rate. The balance is a number. The rate is a direction. And direction is what compounds. The third threshold, $100,000. You are 30. You had to do math to cross this one. The investment account holds $73,400. You closed on a duplex at 28 with $18,000 down. One unit rents for $890. The other rents for $760. After mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance reserve, you net $490 a month. Equity position, $27,600. Combined net worth, $101,000.
You tell nobody. Not because you're ashamed, because you've noticed what happens when people find out. The energy in the room shifts. Someone asks if you can cover dinner. Someone pitches you a business idea that has no business being a business. Someone you haven't spoken to in 3 years sends a message that starts with, "Hey, random, but I've been thinking about you." The quiet is not modesty. It's efficiency. What does $100,000 actually feel like? Not like freedom. Not yet. It feels like the absence of a specific fear. The fear of one bad month dismantling everything. A car repair is a disruption, not a crisis. A medical bill lands and it's inconvenient, not catastrophic. You are not rich. You are insulated. And insulation, at this stage, is the entire point. That's it. That's what the first 6 figures buys. Not options, breathing room to make better decisions. That's what $100,000 actually is. The real options come later. The fourth threshold, $250,000. You are 33. Investment accounts, $164,000. 2 rental properties, combined equity, $61,000. A consulting practice you started at 31 and do not advertise generates $4,200 a month net. Total net worth, $225,000 and climbing. Something has shifted, not in the number, in your relationship to the number. You stop checking the brokerage daily, then weekly, once a month, then less. Not from indifference, from trust. You know what you own. You know why you own it. A market dip is no longer a verdict. It's weather. You know the difference between a signal and noise now, and that difference is worth more than you can calculate. Here's what nobody tells you about $250,000. The math changes character at this level. Your investments return approximately $17,500 a year at historical averages. That is $1,458 a month. Not enough to live on, enough to feel. The first time money makes money at a volume that lands with actual weight. You receive a $23,000 return on a single position in 1 year. You tell no one. You reinvest it entirely. The discipline of reinvesting is unglamorous. That is precisely the point. The unglamorous decision, repeated without celebration, is the whole mechanism. You turn down a destination wedding, $2,800 after flights, hotel, and the gift. You decline. The friendship survives. The capital stays in the machine. You feel the friction of that decision for exactly 4 days. Then it passes. You learn to pay the 4 days quickly and not dwell on them. You turn down a business opportunity pitched by a friend who doesn't understand cash flow. You decline a dinner where the bill splits 5 ways and you'd be subsidizing 3 people's wine. No. 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 The people in your life notice. Some go quiet. Some get strange. You feel the shift in certain rooms, and you stay anyway, and you keep saying no. The shift. You stop adding to your life. You start compounding it. The 5th threshold, $500,000. You are 37. Brokerage, $347,000. Real estate equity across 3 properties, $142,000. Business assets and cash reserves, $21,000. Total, $510,000. $500,000. You sit with it for a moment. You thought you'd feel different. You feel the same. Slightly steadier, maybe. The way a building feels the same whether it has 2 floors or 5, but the weight it can hold is different. Your investments returned $35,700 this year without a single active decision. That is more than most people save in a full year of work. The gap between what money earns and what labor earns is no longer abstract. It is a line item. Once you can see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. You hire a fee-only financial planner. Her name is Ren. She charges $4,400 a year. In the first month, she finds a depreciation schedule across your rental properties that reduces your taxable income by $28,000 annually. The $4,400 fee saves $9,100 in taxes in year 1. You renew without discussion. Here's what nobody tells you about $500,000. It is the threshold where the cost of a bad decision changes category. Below this level, a mistake costs money. Above it, a mistake costs the future the money would have built. The distinction is not subtle. You become more careful. Not from fear, from understanding exactly what is at stake on both sides of a decision. Patience becomes a practical skill now, not a character trait. You wait. Old money always understood this. Waiting is not passive. Waiting is the active management of time. The 6th threshold, $750,000. You are 40. You have not thought about your checking balance in 4 months. That silence is the distance, not the number. The place where the anxiety used to live is quiet now. You remember checking the account at 10:47 p.m. on Tuesdays, the way the number felt like a verdict. You remember moving $200 to savings and moving it back 3 days later because something came up. You remember the low, constant hum of arithmetic running underneath everything. That person built this. You just stayed out of his way.
Brokerage, $501,000. Real estate equity, $197,000. Cash and business assets, $58,000. Total, $756,000. Investment income this year, $51,000. Before a single hour of active work. The machine runs while you sleep. It ran while you were at dinner on Saturday. It ran while you were on a 4-day trip you booked on a Thursday because you wanted to and you could. The machine does not take weekends. It does not require your presence. It requires your restraint. This is what $750,000 actually means. Not security, momentum. A thing that moves on its own now and requires your direction, not your labor. The job has changed. You have not yet caught up to what the new job is. The shift. You stop working for capital. Capital starts working alongside you. The 7th threshold, $1 million. You are 43. It happens on a Wednesday. Nothing ceremonial about it. No bell, no notification with the correct weight. You open the brokerage app while waiting for a phone call. Brokerage, $683,000. Real estate equity, $241,000. Cash position, $88,000. You do the addition once without a calculator. $1,012,000. You close the app. You make coffee. Here is what the million actually is. A 4% safe withdrawal rate on $1,012,000 is $40,480 a year. That is $3,373 a month. That is not freedom. That is a floor, a starting point. The million does not mean you are done. It means the direction was correct. The machine is real. The proof of concept is complete. You thought you'd feel different. There is a quiet satisfaction, and then, almost immediately, the number is not enough. Not in a frantic way, in a clear, practical way. You understand now that the milestone was never the destination. It was the proof of concept, the evidence that compounding works, that the $300 transfer mattered, that holding through the dip was right. You think about the $2,140 balance, the Tuesday night at 24 when you opened the brokerage account and stared at it for 2 weeks before putting anything in. The recurring transfer you set and forgot about, going in quietly month after month while you were living your life, not watching it. You did not feel like you were building something then. You felt like you were doing a small, unglamorous, uncertain thing and hoping it would eventually matter. It mattered. Not because the million is magic. Because the million is the accumulated weight of 1,000 decisions that each felt too small to count. The $300 that stayed in when you could have pulled it. The emergency that went to the reserve fund instead of the investment account. The car you didn't upgrade. The trip you declined. The partner you didn't subsidize. The raise you didn't inflate. None of those moments felt like wealth creation. They felt like restraint. Like choosing the boring option when the interesting one was available. Like waiting when everyone around you was moving. That's what $1 million at 43 actually looks like. Not a windfall, not a moment. 20 years of choosing the invisible over the visible. The account over the performance. The future over the present tense. Somewhere tonight, a 22-year-old is checking their balance on a Tuesday. The number has 4 digits. They haven't calculated their net worth because the answer would have a minus sign in front of it, and they are not ready for that. They don't know yet that the machine starts with $300. That it starts with not selling. That it starts with setting the transfer and walking away, and trusting the direction before you can see where it leads. $2,140. That's where it starts. Not with a plan, not with the perfect strategy, with a recurring transfer and the decision to stop watching and trust the compounding you cannot yet feel. The million doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives on a Wednesday while you're making coffee, and then you put the phone down and the machine keeps running. And you let it. That's the whole story. It always was.